Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the mind of Jeff Bezos.
Hmm.
We've got some excerpts from a recent interview with him where he really gets candid about his journey and his whole philosophy. I got to say, his regret minimization framework that he talks about really jumped out at me. Such a unique way to look at making decisions.
It is, yeah. What's so interesting about his approach is that he just doesn't shy away from risk at all. I mean, think about it. The early days of Amazon, it was practically the Wild West of the internet back then. Most people were just barely grasping the idea of email, let alone buying things online.
Exactly. So to leave the secure finance job
Yeah.
and launch this whole idea of selling books online from his garage,
Mm.
it takes some serious guts.
It really does. And it speaks to his ability to just grasp, almost like a preternatural ability, to grasp the potential of emerging technologies. But what I think is so fascinating is how he frames this decision through the lens of thinking about future regret. So rather than fixating on the potential for failure, he really focused on the potential for regret if he didn't try. So he did this thought experiment, imagining himself at 80 years old, looking back on his life. And what he realized was that the regret of not pursuing this dream would far outweigh the regret of failing.
Yeah, that's such a powerful way to approach those big life decisions. It's almost like flipping the script on fear
Yeah.
and using it as a motivator. I can definitely see how that mindset contributed to his success.
Oh, absolutely. And there's actually a psychological principle at play here called anticipated regret. And studies have shown that people are way more motivated to avoid regret in the future than they are to just go after potential gains. And Bezos just intuitively tapped into this, making a decision that aligned with his long-term vision, even though it seemed so risky at the time.
Okay, so he minimizes regret, launches Amazon. And then there's this whole idea of the calling. He's pretty insistent that finding your calling is the key to like real fulfillment, going as far as to say it's different from just having a job or even having a career.
Right. This is where we start to see like a deeper, more philosophical layer to how Bezos thinks. It's not just about building a successful business, it's about finding something that gives your life meaning. And this idea of the calling really resonates with some contemporary theories about purpose and meaning in work. Like psychologists like Martin Seligman talk about the importance of finding activities that leverage what they call your signature strengths, your unique talents and abilities in service of something bigger than yourself.
When you put it that way, it really flips the whole traditional narrative of work-life balance on its head. Like, it's not about compartmentalizing work as this separate, often dreaded aspect of life. Instead, it's about finding that sweet spot where your work becomes an expression of your passions and your values.
Exactly. And that's why I think Bezos emphasizes, following genuine passion over chasing these fleeting trends. He's not advocating for blind ambition. He's advocating for aligning your work with your intrinsic motivations because trends come and go, but true passion has staying power.
But in today's world,
Yeah.
with everyone pushing hustle culture and instant gratification, wouldn't you say it's easy to get caught up in those short-term trends and lose sight of the bigger picture?
You're absolutely right. And that's where I think Bezos' next point becomes so important. He often uses this military phrase, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah, that one really stood out to me too. It sounds kind of paradoxical, but I have a feeling there's some serious wisdom hidden in there.
Oh, there is. It's about the value of deliberate, consistent progress over rushed action. Think about it. When you try to rush through something, you're more likely to make mistakes. You cut corners. And ultimately, you compromise the quality of your work. But when you take the time to do things right and lay a solid foundation, you create a smoother path to success.
You know it. It reminds me of the concept of deep work, that idea of blocking out distractions and focusing really intently on a single task for a long period of time. It's not about just being busy. It's about being productive and intentional with your time and energy.
That's a great connection. And I think that's a key takeaway from Bezos' philosophy. It's not about sprinting. It's about running a marathon. It's about choosing the path of slow, steady, focused effort.
So like choosing the tortoise over the hare, it's about trusting the process and understanding that real success, sustainable success, is built on a foundation of patience, persistence, and deliberate action.
Now, if we connect that back to Bezos' earlier points about passion and trends, I think we start to see how this slow is smooth approach allows you to stay true to your vision and to build something truly meaningful and lasting, rather than getting swept up in whatever the latest fad is.
It's like a long-term investment strategy for your life and your career.
Exactly. And I think that's a big part of why Bezos has been so successful. He's not chasing quick wins. He's playing the long game. And that takes a very different mindset, a different set of values. It's about prioritizing quality over speed, depth over superficiality.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if that's one of the secrets to his success,
Yes.
especially in the tech world,
Yeah.
where things just change so rapidly. He's managed to build an empire while still kind of adhering to this principle of slow, deliberate growth.
It's definitely a key differentiator, and I think a powerful lesson for any of us, no matter what field we're in.
Yeah.
It's about resisting that urge to rush and instead focusing on building a solid foundation, one step at a time.
So we've got this slow is smooth approach, this emphasis on passion over trends,
Yeah.
and this regret minimization framework. What else did he touch on that you found insightful?
Well, something else that really struck me was his perspective on taking pride in your accomplishments. He makes this really interesting distinction between, being proud of your inherent talents versus the choices you make to cultivate those talents. It's a very subtle but really powerful distinction. It's easy to just fall into the trap of feeling pride simply for being naturally good at something. But Bezos is suggesting that real pride comes from the effort, the dedication, the choices we make to actually hone those abilities and transform them into something meaningful.
Right. So it's like saying, okay, you might have a natural aptitude for music, but are you actually putting in the hours to practice, to learn, to really master your craft?
Yeah.
It's the choices that elevate talent to the level of mastery.
Exactly. And I think that speaks to this idea of a growth mindset. It's acknowledging that our abilities, they're not fixed, but they can be developed through deliberate effort and intentional choices. Bezos is basically saying, don't just rest on your laurels. Take ownership of your potential and make choices that will actually allow you to truly flourish.
It's like he's saying, don't just be proud of what you're given. Be proud of what you do with what you're given.
Right. And, there's this really fascinating psychological concept called self-efficacy, which is basically our belief in our own ability to succeed in specific situations. And research has shown that self-efficacy is a much better predictor of success than raw talent alone.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about having the ability. It's about believing in your ability to utilize that ability effectively.
Exactly. And that belief, that self-efficacy, it's often cultivated through the choices we make, the challenges we overcome, the effort we put into developing our skills.
It makes you wonder if that's part of what drives his relentless pursuit of innovation. It's not just about coming up with new ideas. It's about believing in this ability to turn those ideas into reality.
It's about having that unwavering faith in his own capacity to execute, to overcome obstacles, and to ultimately achieve what he sets out to do. And I think that's a pretty powerful message for all of us. It's not just about dreaming big, it's about believing in our own ability to make those dreams reality.
Now, amidst all this talk of achievement and ambition, Bezos doesn't shy away from the importance of character. He poses this question: will you be clever at the expense of others, or will you be kind? It's such a powerful reminder that success shouldn't come at the cost of our humanity.
It's a question that I think really cuts to the core of our values. It's so easy, especially in the world of business, which can be pretty cutthroat at times, to prioritize winning above all else, even if it means compromising our integrity or treating other people poorly. But Bezos is drawing a very clear line here. He's saying, you can be ambitious, you can be driven, but you don't have to sacrifice your kindness in the process.
Right. It's like he's saying that true success, it encompasses not just personal achievement, but also a positive contribution to the world around us.
Exactly. And this emphasis on kindness actually aligns with a lot of the latest research on leadership. Studies have shown that leaders who demonstrate empathy and compassion, they're not only more effective at motivating their teams, but they also create more positive and productive work environments.
Yeah. So it's not just about being a nice person. It's actually a smart business strategy. Kindness is good for the bottom line.
It absolutely is. And I think Bezos understands this on a very deep level. He's built a company culture at Amazon that values collaboration, innovation, and yes, kindness. And it's clearly been paying off.
Now, speaking of building a company culture,
Yeah.
he also talks about the importance of empowering other people. He says that when you can provide tools and services that help people unleash their creativity, you're really onto something.
This is where I think Bezos' vision for Amazon really shines through. You have to remember, this was a time when the internet was still a pretty new thing. Bezos saw its potential, not just as a platform for commerce, but as a tool for connecting people, sharing information, and empowering individuals to pursue their own passion.
And that's exactly what he did. He created a platform that allowed anyone, from small businesses to individual creators, to reach a global audience. It was a radical idea at the time.
It really was. And it completely disrupted the traditional retail landscape. Suddenly, anyone with a good idea and an internet connection could become an entrepreneur, a creator, a seller. Bezos basically democratized access to the marketplace, and in doing so, he unleashed this incredible wave of innovation and creativity.
It's like he was saying, let's create a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, to innovate,
Mm.
and to make a difference. It's a pretty inspiring vision, wouldn't you say?
It absolutely is, and it's a vision that's had a really profound impact on our world. I mean, think about it. Amazon hasn't just changed the way we shop, but it's also created countless opportunities for small businesses, for artists, for writers, for anyone with a dream and a willingness to work hard.
Right. It's almost like he created like a digital ecosystem, a virtual marketplace
Yeah.
where ideas and creativity could just flourish.
Precisely. And I think that's why his message resonates so deeply with people. He's not just talking about building a successful business. He's talking about building a better world, a world where everyone has the opportunity to contribute
To create.
and to thrive.
And speaking of contributing and thriving, Bezos makes a really interesting distinction between having a career versus just having a job.
Yeah. He points out that, a lot of people end up with jobs, but those who are truly fortunate find careers, something they're passionate about, something that gives them a sense of purpose and fulfillment.
hmm He even goes so far as to say that if you don't love your work, you'll never be great at it.
Right. That's a very powerful statement. And I think it challenges us to really examine our own work lives and ask ourselves, am I truly engaged? Am I pursuing something that aligns with my passions and values?
Because if the answer is no, then maybe it's time to start thinking about how we can create a work life that is both fulfilling and meaningful.
Absolutely. It's about taking ownership of our careers,
Yeah.
just like we take ownership of our choices in our lives. And that's where I think Bezos's final message really hits home.
Yeah. He reminds us that we're living in this incredible time, a time of unprecedented opportunity and innovation. He even compares our current era to the Renaissance, suggesting that the great thinkers and innovators of the past would be envious of the possibilities we have today.
It's a pretty bold statement, but I think he's right. We have access to technology, information, and resources that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. The potential for innovation and progress is truly limitless.
And yet with all these possibilities right at our fingertips, it's so easy to get overwhelmed, to feel paralyzed by the sheer volume of choices. It's almost like we have too much freedom, too much opportunity.
It's an interesting point, and I think that's why Bezos' final question is so important. He asks, how will you use your gifts?
It's a question that it cuts through all the noise and gets right to the heart of the matter. It's not about what you have. It's about what you do with what you have. It's about taking ownership of your potential and making choices that align with your deepest values and aspirations.
It's a call to action. He's essentially saying, don't squander this incredible opportunity. Don't let life just happen to you. Make conscious choices, embrace your potential, and make a positive impact on the world.
And he doesn't just leave it there. He offers this series of really thought-provoking questions to guide our reflection. He asks, will you be guided by inertia or by passion? Will you conform or will you forge your own path? Will you choose comfort or will you choose adventure? It's like he's giving us this roadmap for how to craft a life of purpose and meaning, a life that's not just about success, but also about significance.
Right. And it all comes back to choice. Bezos is emphasizing that. We're not just passive passengers on this journey called life. We are the drivers. We have the power to choose the direction, the speed, and the destination.
And it's interesting because he doesn't just focus on the big life-altering choices. He also highlights the importance of those small, everyday choices. He says, in the end, we are our choices. It's like he's saying that every decision we make, no matter how insignificant it may seem, contributes to the overall tapestry of our lives.
That's a really profound insight. It's a reminder that we're constantly shaping our own destinies, one choice at a time. And it's not just about the outcome of those choices, but it's about the process, the intentionality, the awareness that we bring to each decision.
So it's about living a life that's congruent with our values, a life that reflects our deepest aspirations, a life that we can look back on with that sense of pride and fulfillment.
Exactly. And I think that's why Bezos' final message is so powerful. He leaves us with this incredibly thought-provoking question. When you're 80 years old and in a quiet moment of reflection, thinking back on your life, what will be the stories that matter most to you?
Wow. Yeah, that really hits home. It forces you to confront your own values, your priorities, your own definition of a life well lived.
It does. And it's a question that I think we should all ask ourselves regularly, because it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, in the pursuit of external validation, in the distractions of the modern world. But Bezos is reminding us to pause, to reflect, and to really reconnect with what truly matters.
It's about defining success on our own terms, not by society standards, not by someone else's definition, but by what brings us a deep sense of satisfaction and meaning.
And it's about understanding that, those stories, the ones that will matter most at the end of our lives, they're often not about, grand achievements or material possessions. They're about the relationships we've built, the contributions we've made, the moments of joy and connection we've experienced.
They're about the choices we've made that reflect our truest selves, the choices that have allowed us to live a life of purpose and impact.
Precisely. And I think that's a beautiful and inspiring message to carry with us as we move forward.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the mind of Jeff Bezos, it's clear that he's not just a brilliant businessman, he's also a philosopher,
Right.
a visionary, and a really powerful voice for living a life of intention and meaning. His insights challenge us to think bigger, to act bolder, and to embrace that incredible power of choice that we all have within us.
It's a reminder that we are all authors of our own stories, and the choices we make, both big and small, determine the narrative that we create. So, as you move forward from this conversation, consider what choices you want to make to craft a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling.
It's a powerful call to action, and one that we can all benefit from embracing. Now, before we sign off, we want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question, inspired by Bezos' words. Think about your own life for a second. What gifts are you most grateful for? And what choices have you made to cultivate and utilize them? What choices will you make going forward to author the story that you want to tell?
It's a really powerful question to sit with, Bezos encourages us to acknowledge those inherent strengths, those natural talents we've been given. But then to go a step further, it's about taking ownership, making those deliberate choices to nurture and develop those gifts.
Yeah. It's not about boasting about what comes naturally. It's about recognizing the effort, the dedication, the choices we've made to truly hone those abilities.
Right.
And make something meaningful out of them.
And I think there's this subtle but really profound message here about growth mindset. It's not about being fixed in our abilities, but about recognizing that we have the power to shape and expand our potential through the choices we make each and every day.
It's about becoming the authors of our own evolution.
Precisely. And that's an incredibly empowering concept. It means that no matter where we start, no matter what gifts we've been given, we have the agency to choose the direction of our growth, to cultivate the skills that we desire, and to ultimately become the best versions of ourselves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the mind of Jeff Bezos, let's carry that inspiration forward. Let's embrace the power of choice, the pursuit of passion, and the potential for positive impact that resides within each of us.
Let's challenge ourselves to think bigger, to act bolder, and to author stories that are truly worthy of those incredible gifts we've been given.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep choosing, and keep diving deep